Hello and welcome to DOZ Monologues, hosted by Eturuvie Erebor. DOZ Monologues, also known as DOZ Chronicles Audio Stories, aims to educate, inspire, and drive societal change. All stories are written and narrated by Eturuvie Erebor, and all rights are reserved, including the right of reproduction in whole or in part in any form. This is episode 23, titled New Year's Drama. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. New Year's Drama. The Christmas holiday I spent with my family in Ibadan turned out to be a complete disaster. The main reason for this was the constant pressure from my relatives, who repeatedly questioned why I was still unmarried at the age of 30. To make matters worse, a younger cousin of mine was set to get married the day after Christmas, which only intensified the scrutiny and awkwardness I felt. I was relieved to leave and return to Lagos on New Year's Eve. When I returned home, I spent several hours cleaning my house and cooking meals in preparation for going back to work on January 2nd. After that, I went to church for the New Year's Eve vigil. I couldn't shake the feeling of ungratefulness, as I was starting another year without being married. After spending the entire night at the church service, I looked forward to a slow, restful day in bed, recovering from the exhaustion of both the holiday and the vigil. Yet, as it turned out, the day was anything but peaceful. Rather than enjoying a quiet day, I found myself embroiled in, or rather, witnessing, a series of dramatic events. Drama that unfolded during what should have been a period of celebration and joy. On New Year's morning, the persistent vibration of my mobile phone roused me from sleep. The caller was my friend, Sade, and I was still tired from attending the night vigil and having not slept until nearly 6 a.m. My head throbbed from fatigue, and as I held the phone, I groaned quietly, weighing up whether to answer. Something instinctively warned me that picking up would disrupt my carefully planned day, replacing it with unforeseen chaos. Despite my reluctance to let anything disrupt my carefully laid plans for a restful New Year's Day, I answered the call. Sade was a close friend, someone I had known since our primary school days, along with her sister Biola. Sade and I lived on the same estate in Bagada, and although she was now married with a daughter, our friendship remained strong. We made a conscious effort to spend time together several times a year, often including Biola, who lived in Surulere, not far from Bagada. The phone conversation lasted about 5 minutes, during which I focused on steadying Sade so she could communicate coherently. She was overcome with emotion, crying so much that at times it was impossible to understand her. Eventually, I grasped that she was at the police station, and the distress centered around Bidemi, her daughter, having been violated. Sade had always been a supportive and steadfast friend, and was reaching out to me in a moment of genuine need. I was certain that had the roles been reversed, she would not have hesitated to be there for me as well. And that was reason enough for me to put aside my rest and go to her aid. Although I had not physically spent time with Sade and Biola since the end of October, we had stayed in regular contact over the phone. During our conversations, we discussed our respective plans for the Christmas period. Biola had informed me that she would be traveling to Ghana to celebrate Christmas with her fiancé and his family. Meanwhile, Sade was due to work throughout the Christmas holiday period. Since her husband had only recently departed for the UK to pursue a master's degree, This meant that her 4-year-old daughter, Bidemi, would be spending the festive season without her father. There had been no mention of what Sade planned to do with Bidemi during the holiday, especially as it was highly likely that Bidemi's nanny, Erebor, would also be visiting her own family over Christmas. This raised a troubling question in my mind. Had Sade, out of necessity, left her daughter in the care of someone who was essentially a stranger while she was at work? And could this decision have resulted in the violation of the child? These concerns preoccupied my thoughts as I quickly freshened up, changed my clothes, and made the short 10-minute drive from my home to Bagada police station. When I arrived, Biola was already there. She had initially been at the hospital with Bidemi when Sade first called, but had since come to the station to support her sister as she made her report to the police. Sade remained deeply distressed, barely able to speak coherently, very much as she had been during our phone call. As a result, it was Biola who filled me in on the details of what had happened. From what Biola shared, it became evident that Sade had entrusted Bidemi to their mother's care for the Christmas holiday, with the little girl staying at her grandmother's house from Christmas Eve right through to New Year's Eve. Sade had made arrangements to collect Bidemi on New Year's Eve, as she was off work for both New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and because Erebor, the nanny, had returned to Lagos from Abeokuta after spending Christmas with her own family. Sade had looked forward to reuniting with her daughter and enjoying the festivities together, but her hopes were swiftly dashed. Instead of the joyful time she had imagined, the day turned distressing when Bidemi began to complain of pain in her private parts and feeling unwell with a fever. Concerned, Sade gently questioned her daughter, who then revealed that her grandpa had inappropriately touched her. The man referred to as grandpa was not Bidemi's biological grandfather. He was in fact the child's grandmother's husband. Sade and Biola's mother had a complicated marital history, being currently married to her 4th husband. The sister's biological father had passed away while they were still in primary school, leaving their mother widowed at a young age. Following the death of Sade and Biola's father, their mother remarried. Her 2nd husband fathered Kola, their younger half-brother, but this man eventually abandoned the family while Kola was still an infant. The mother then entered into a 3rd marriage, this time with a man who already had many wives and children. Life with this 3rd husband was turbulent, marked by frequent disputes with him and the ongoing conflicts with her co-wives. During her marriage to her 3rd husband, Sade and Biola's mother began an extramarital affair with another man. This relationship ultimately led to the dissolution of her 3rd marriage and to the end of the man's own marriage. After his wife and children left him, he married Sade and Biola's mother, becoming her 4th husband. Despite the upheaval surrounding their union, this 4th marriage had endured for nearly a decade. I sat alongside Sade and Biola on a bench on the expansive veranda at the front of the police station. Sade was overcome with emotion, quietly sobbing as Biola spoke and described Sade's actions, taking Bidemi to the hospital, where the doctor confirmed that Bidemi's claim was valid and that she had indeed been violated. What wounded Sade most deeply was her mother's reaction to the news. When Sade called her mother from the hospital, seeking support and understanding, her mother flatly denied that anything of the sort had occurred. She insisted that her husband was an honorable man and suggested that if Bidemi had truly been molested, Sade should look elsewhere for the perpetrator. Filled with apprehension about reaching out to her husband, Sade decided to confide in Biola, who had just returned from Ghana late on New Year's Eve. Biola advised her to report the incident to the police, suggesting that they should have their stepfather arrested along with their mother for being an accomplice and obstructing justice. "My mother is a terrible woman," Biola said, as if to justify the advice she had given her sister. "She has always chosen the worst men. Do you know that Kola's father tried to rape me while he was married to our mother?" Sade suddenly stopped crying and lifted her head. "What do you mean, Biola?" she asked, and from the shock in her voice, it was clear she was hearing this for the first time. "Kola's father tried to rape me while he was married to our mother," Biola repeated. "And you didn't say anything all these years?" Sade asked, clearly stunned. "Who would I have told?" Biola replied. "He said our mother wouldn't believe me. And now I can see he was right. Kola was just a baby, not quite 6 months old. And you were only 10, just 2 years older than me. What could you have done? Besides, he never tried anything like that again. Soon after the incident, he left Mom, and we never saw him again." "What exactly happened?" Sade asked. "I was home alone one afternoon after school. You had stayed back for after-school lessons, and Mom was at her shop with Kola. He came to the house and said Mom wanted me at the shop to help out. So I put on my shoes and got into the car. Instead of taking me to the shop, he drove me to a construction site where he was working. He said he wanted to deliver a message to the workers and asked me to come down from the vehicle. I obeyed, but I felt uncomfortable because as far as I could see, there was no one at the site. When I stepped into the unfinished building with him, he grabbed me and tried to force me to kiss him. At that moment, I realized what he intended to do, and I began to scream and kick. Fortunately, I managed to escape from him and ran. He got in the car and drove behind me, pleading for me to get back in, insisting that he wouldn't touch me again. Eventually, I got in because I didn't know how to get home from the site or how to reach Mom's shop. Once I was inside, he sternly warned me not to tell Mom anything, claiming she wouldn't believe me and would label me a bad girl. Based on how she reacted to Bidemi's story, I truly believe she would have. At that moment, a vehicle pulled into the police station's parking lot, making Sade tense. Her mother and stepfather stepped out and walked toward the station, accompanied by 2 police officers. While her stepfather appeared subdued, her mother exuded a fiery intensity. "So you dared to report my husband to the police over your daughter's allegations?" Sade's mother shouted as she approached. She looked ready for a confrontation as she removed her head tie and wrapped it around her waist. "You arrested my husband and me on New Year's Day, eh, Fola Sade?" Sade, Biola and I rose to our feet, prepared for what would follow next. "I have a report from the doctor stating that my daughter has been violated," Sade said, raising her voice. "Maybe you bring men to your house who defile your daughter," Sade's mother retorted. "If the doctor said your daughter has been defiled, did he tell you that my husband defiled her?" "Bidemi told me it was Grandpa who defiled her," Sade exclaimed angrily. Sade's mother clapped her hands in outrage. "Your daughter is a wayward child. She is not only immoral, but she is also a liar. You have not trained her properly, Fola Sade. Shame on you." Sade leapt forward in rage and closed the small distance between her mother and us. She grabbed her mother by the neck and squeezed tightly while shaking her viciously. "I will strangle you, you devil," she said through her clenched teeth. "If you open your mouth and speak nonsense again, I will wipe you out." Quickly, Biola and I, together with a female officer, moved swiftly and extracted Sade from her mother, who was already gasping for breath. "Sade, you can't do that," I said calmly but sternly. "No matter what, she is your mother." "She is not a mother. She is a devil," Sade exclaimed to me as she burst into tears again. "Enough with the fake tears. You are an ingrate," Sade's mother shouted at her. "You failed to train your child properly, and then you dared to arrest me. What have I done wrong? Was I wrong for bringing you into this world?" As I watched the exchange, I finally understood why Kola left for university in the north and never came back. He recognized issues with his mother that his sisters overlooked and wisely kept his distance. Biola and Sade could have avoided this problem by doing the same. Biola and I embraced a weeping Sade as a female police officer and her male colleague issued orders to their mother and stepfather to move into the station for questioning. When Sade had regained her composure, the officers took her and Biola aside to write their statements. This left me sitting alone on the bench, waiting patiently for their return. As I sat there, I took in the activity around me, watching the steady stream of people entering and leaving the police station. Each person seemed preoccupied with their own grievances and seeking justice for the troubles that brought them there. Although I was familiar with the Bagada police station, I had never before had cause to visit. Observing the bustling environment, I was struck by how busy it was, especially considering it was New Year's Day, a time when most people were at home with their families, celebrating the arrival of a new year. The station was a hive of activity, revealing just how many lives were touched by conflict, even on days meant for joy and togetherness. A loud shriek suddenly pierced the air, catching the attention of several onlookers and jolting me out of my thoughts. I turned to look toward the car park, from which the scream had originated. There, I saw a woman violently attacking a man, while police officers struggled to separate them. "Give me back my husband," she shouted at the top of her lungs, fighting against those trying to restrain her, before ultimately breaking down in tears. I frowned, wondering what was happening, and just then, a woman joined me on the bench. "This world is truly evil," she muttered. "What is going on over there?" I asked. "My dear, that woman's husband was used for ritual purposes." I gasped in shock, as that was not what I was expecting to hear. Honestly, I don't know what I was expecting to hear. "What do you mean?" The man in question is a friend of the woman's husband. On Boxing Day, he visited the couple at their home in the estate annex and took her husband out. When midnight passed and her husband still hadn't come back, she tried calling him but received no answer. Worried, she called the friend who had taken him out, and he expressed surprise, saying he'd dropped her husband off at the top of their street over an hour earlier. Since then, her husband has not been seen, and his phone is switched off. She reached out to his other friends and extended family, but got no information. Then her family sought guidance from a prophet who claimed her husband was dead and had been used in ritual practices by his friend. Based on this, she asked the police to arrest the friend for questioning. I was puzzled by the story and watched in awe as both the weeping woman and the disheveled man were escorted into the station to write their statements. The woman who had joined me on the bench got up and went inside with them, obviously to find out what would happen next. Just then, I heard a familiar voice calling my name. When I turned around, I saw Ireti, a woman who lived on my street. I found that she walked over and sat down beside me on the bench. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "My sister," she began, rolling her eyes in exasperation. "I came to make a complaint against my husband's family. They want to evict me from my home. What am I supposed to do about my supermarket and pharmacy?" "What do you mean?" I asked, because her words made no sense. "My husband passed away on Christmas Day, and his family is trying to evict me," she repeated. I gasped in shock. Aside from the black dress she wore, there was nothing to suggest she had lost anyone, let alone her husband. And all of this on Christmas Day? "What happened to your husband?" I asked. "Was he ill?" She shook her head. "He was in perfect health. We were dressed and ready to go to Mass on Christmas morning, sitting in the car with the girls, when he suddenly remembered that he didn't have his reading glasses. He got out of the car to fetch them, and when he hadn't returned after about 5 minutes, I honked the horn, but there was no response. I then asked my oldest daughter to get out and find out what was taking him so long. As soon as she stepped inside, she screamed and ran out, saying that Dad was dead. My other daughters and I rushed inside and realized that he had slumped in the middle of the living room. Instead of going to church, we rushed him to the hospital, where he was confirmed dead on arrival. I called a couple of his friends, and it didn't take long for his family to show up. The first thing they did was ask me to leave the house. Can you imagine the audacity? I sat there, stunned by everything I had just heard. Ireti had been married to Mr. Ajayi for 5 years, but she was not his first wife. When I first moved onto the estate about 8 years ago, I met Mr. Ajayi's original wife. She was a well-respected teacher and the headmistress of a private school in the area. Beyond her duties at the school, she also provided private lessons for children in the community. The children adored her, and she reciprocated their affection wholeheartedly. She had one son from her marriage to Mr. Ajayi, and according to neighbors, her inability to have more children became a persistent source of tension in their marriage. Suddenly, a new figure appeared on the estate, Ireti, whom many residents disparagingly called Jezebel. Her arrival was shrouded in mystery, as no one seemed to know how Mr. Ajayi had met her or how their relationship began. She had 3 daughters from a previous marriage and was divorced at the time. Without much warning, Mr. Ajayi sent his wife and son away and moved Ireti and her daughters into his home, taking on the role of father to the girls, while his own son was left without a father. The building next door, which Mr. Ajayi owned in addition to his home, and where his first wife had conducted her after-school lessons, was transformed into a prestigious supermarket and pharmacy for Ireti. When Mr. Ajayi's mother and siblings attempted to intervene in these drastic changes, they were told never to return to his home. he severed all contact with them and completely cut off family ties. For 5 years, he lived with Ireti. Whether they were officially married remained a matter of speculation within the estate. Some believed they were cohabiting, but none could say for sure. "I am very sorry to hear about the loss of your husband," I told her. "Thank you," she replied, sounding irritated. "But that's the least of my problems right now. In fact, I'm too frustrated to feel sorrowful about his passing. For years, I asked the Yeye man to include me in the deed to the properties or to change his will, but he kept procrastinating until he died unexpectedly. Now, his family is trying to ruin my life. They've moved his ex-wife and son into my home." "They have?" I asked, surprised. "They have," she confirmed. "His manipulative mother claims she doesn't know me because she never accompanied her son to pay my bride price. Therefore, she believes that her son has only one wife. She and her children reported me to the Reverend Father, falsely accusing me of breaking up another woman's marriage. It has been a nightmare since he died. I haven't had a moment of peace. I devoted 5 years of my life to that man, and now it seems I will walk away empty-handed. I don't even know how to begin moving on from this. All of this is happening because my careless husband failed to secure my future. I'm truly sorry to hear all of this," I said softly. "Thank you. I will go in now and file my complaint. I have warned them that if they attempt to evict me forcefully, I will ensure they spend the new year in a police cell. Ireti is not to be toyed with." Without giving me a chance to respond, she rose from her seat and went inside the station, leaving me alone to process all the revelations she had just shared. I sat there, overwhelmed by the flood of information. I couldn't help but question the kind of woman who could appear so unmoved by her husband's death, focusing solely on the upheaval his sudden passing had brought to her life. Was she seriously expecting his family to allow her to inherit his property, especially as she had no child with him? And what response did she anticipate from his wife and son, who had been forced out of their home for 5 years? Her behavior seemed baffling and lacking in empathy. The nickname Jezebel truly seemed apt for her. Before long, Sade and Biola appeared with an update. Their stepfather had been taken into police custody. Their mother, however, was not detained, though she was deeply distressed by the situation, especially on hearing her husband's anguished cries from the men's cell as other inmates beat him. The experience left her in tears, and she directed some harsh words at Sade and Biola. But the two remained resolute. They were determined that justice would be done and that their stepfather would face prosecution and imprisonment. After leaving the police station, I accompanied them to the hospital to visit Bidemi, who, to everyone's relief, was discharged that evening and allowed to return home. I didn't return home until around 7 p.m., feeling completely drained by the day's events. Yet, despite the turmoil that marked the start of the new year, my perspective had shifted, and I felt grateful to God for the gift of another year. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of episode 23 of DOZ Monologues. DOZ Monologues will return next week with another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave your comments and subscribe, like, and share if listening on YouTube. To contact me, please visit my website eturuvieerebor.com or email me at eturuvie@eturuvieerebor.com. I invite all story lovers to explore my novels and novellas available on Amazon and Google Books. For audiobook enthusiasts, they are also on Audible. Thank you for listening. I am your favorite storyteller, Eturuvie Erebor, and I'll be here next Friday with another story.